Hello, everyone. My name is Roy Cornwall. It is July the 30th at 10:53 in the afternoon, 2024. This is a story by the teller. Um, I I'm up in my years. I'm about 40 years old at this point, and I used to like going to yard sales. Uh, because you get stuff for cheaper than buying it in the store, and sometimes you come across a priceless thing, right? So I every weekend I go out searching for yard sales, and I find two or three of them in the area. Well, I went to this yard sale. It was a really old rundown house, old style house, right? And there was an older couple that lived in there, right? And they had the stuff out. Not they didn't even have a driveway. They just had it out in the front lawn. So I stopped. I'm on my electric bicycle. I stopped, and I went in to see. I looked at the stuff, and there was this one porcelain figure. It was about 2.5 feet tall, 2 feet tall, 2.5, somewhere in there, and it was of a dragon. It had wings, front legs, and back legs, and I thought it was neat. It caught my attention. So I asked the gentleman. I said, "How much for this?" He says, $5. Now I'm looking around. And I see the guy selling everything, probably to make the rent. So my little voice started talking to me, the Holy Spirit within me. So I gave him $100. That's all I had in my wallet. I would have given him more, but I didn't have more to give. So I took the porcelain figure. He wrapped it up in a nice box, patted it in there, everything for me, and I put it in my carrier. And I'm going home. I go home, and all the way home, I'm hearing I thought it was my bicycle making. It was like a little squeak. I thought it was my bicycle. Pull in my like I live in an apartment. Pull into the lobby, go up the elevator with my three-wheel bicycle and into my apartment. So I unwrapped this porcelain figure, and it didn't quite look the same as it did when I bought it. I thought it was in this pose, and now it's in this pose. So okay, I have a wooden stool, 3.5 foot, 3 foot high wooden stool that people sit on. I put it on top of that, and I turned it so that the where I'm sitting, like right here, it would be looking at me directly head on, right? I'm hungry. I've been out all day. I come back. I get something to eat. I'm eating my dinner here at the table, and I look over at this porcelain figure, and I see one eyeball. The eyeballs are the whites are yellow. They're solid yellow with a black center to it, right? And this porcelain figure of a dragon looked like it was green with scales all over it. But he or she had something in front of him that was glowing, right? So it had a light inside this figure thing. So I turned the light on, and the area where the egg would come out of the was, I guess it was starting to be an egg. I guess I don't know what it was, but it would glow. So I thought that was neat at night. I'd turn it on, and strange things started happening around the house. Um, I had a dog at one time, and he just died, so I still had his toys on the floor. And I know where these toys are because I've seen them there for the last 6 months, right? And I get up one morning and all the toys are moved. They're moved. I'm going, you know? I look over the porcelain figure, he's still looking off, with his eyes looking straight ahead. So, seeing the toys move brought me to tears because I'd lost my baby, and uh, it brought back a lot of emotions for me. So I sat in the chair and I cried. I'm a full grown 40-year-old man and I'm crying. So after I wiped the tears from my eyes, I looked around the room, and this porcelain figure was no longer looking It had turned its head and was looking straight at me. Wasn't moving. It still looked like a porcelain figure, but it was looking straight at me. Uh, I knew right then something was odd. And so I went over to it, I examined it, tipped it down, looked at it, put it there. I gave it a pat on the head like it was alive, right? And I walked away. But as I'm walking away, I hear the same squeak that I thought was my bicycle. Now I'm having an epiphany, right? I turn around and I look at this thing. And now it's looking at me again. Instead of looking off where it was, now it's looking at me again. This is twice as moved its head. So I've had encounters with Jesus Christ, aliens, all of the paranormal stuff, except for ghosts, and I don't know about Bigfoot, or, well, I sort of do know a bit more. I believe more about Bigfoot than I do of ghosts. So um, I went over to it. I put my hand on his head and I started stroking him like a cat. I'm calling it him because I don't know what it is, truthfully. And I'm patting him. I stayed there for a good minute patting it, right? So, okay, supper time comes. I get my supper. I'm sitting in at the front of the coffee table on the couch eating my supper, watching the TV. And I can see this thing is out the left side of my, so I can see the TV to my right, but out to the left, I can see this dragon. Well, I near choked on my food. I gasped. This thing was looking to its far left. And while I was looking at it, he turned his head and looked right at me. And both of his eyes, because when they painted it on the porcelain, it was sort of offset of it, but both the eyes were centered and now looking directly at me. So, I never did eat my supper that night. It went cold and I threw it out and I had something like a sandwich or something later. But I would talk to it. I said, well, I got to give you a name because I can't keep calling you it and thing and dragon. And so I didn't know what to call it. So I'm thinking about this as this goes on from this point, right? I was thinking I was going to call it baby. Because it's a dragon baby, right? So for now, we'll call her baby until I can think of a better name. Every morning before I go to work, I say goodbye and I pat him and come home. I go right to him and pat him. So, all right. This was late at night. This was. I have to be up in my car going by 7, so I'm up by 6 every morning. So I'm in bed by 9 o'clock or 9:30 at the latest. And I look over. I'm going into the bedroom, and before I go to bed, I pat him and that. Say goodnight to him. Be good. I'll be here when I wake up. But this time when I did that, I went because the lights were out and I was heading into the bedroom. I patted him, but it didn't feel like the porcelain figure anymore. It felt alive. It felt warm. It had scales on. So I went over to the lamp. I turned the lamp on. There he is. It looks just like the porcelain figure, except it's real. He's breathing. He's blinking. The ears are back like he's in a kind mood. Right? So I froze. I didn't know what this thing was going to do. Right? I froze, and it just sat there, and it had like a little tail on it. It would wiggle its tail. It had almost like a fork, a point on the end of the tail, like a spearhead. And he would, go like this when he was happy with it. He would wave it back and forth like a dog. So he started doing that, and the ears went back, and he gave off this little squeak. So I figured he's not going to harm me. And also, this is a baby, right? So I walked over to it, and I put my hand out. He smelled my hand. I patted him on the top of the head, real slow like, and I patted him down the full length of his body, and I looked at his paw, and I looked at his tail, I looked in his ears, I looked everywhere on him to see if he was okay. And he was okay, and I didn't see any problems with him at all. So I bend down, I look into his face, and I start talking to him. Like you do, dog, baby. Are you hungry? And as soon as I said he's hungry, his eyes opened up like this. So I scooped them up, I took them in the kitchen, sat them on the counter. And because I had a dog, I had a whole pile of beef stew. Uh, so still in the can. So I opened the can and I poured it in a bowl. And I put it in front of Mender. He gobbled that down. Potatoes, peas, gravy, you know, all that stuff. He just gobbled it down. So I said to myself, I don't know how much to eat. I got about 8 cans of this food. So I put a second one down and he ate that. And I put a third one down and he ate that slower. But he never came back for the fourth one. So he was full. I said, well, I can't kick you out the door and you're going to have to stay here now. I said, not thinking he's going to grow bigger. I'm thinking that's the whole gear, right? He's going to stay that size. So I made a bed in my bedroom, which he never used. As soon as he was real and I went to bed, which was late that night, he followed me in there. He crawled on the bed and wanted to sleep in bed with me. I put him off the bed into his bed. No, he's not having it. He's sleeping on the bed with me, and that's all there is to it. So, just like a dog, this thing came up and lied right beside me the whole night through, purring. This thing would purr like a cat, only louder and more like with words in the purr almost, right? So, um, I have a friend. I bought a house out in the country, and the lot right next door had a house on it and it was for sale. So I have a friend. Her name is Carol. She's a childhood friend. I've known her my whole life. I phoned her up. I said, Carol, I said, if I buy this house, do you want it? She said, what do you mean want it? I said, you can live there. I'll give it to you. Give you the land and the house. So she didn't believe me for about almost a year. But finally she believed me and I bought the house. I bought the house before she said yes to it because I figured I could flip it and sell it if it's not. But she said, finally saw the house. She says, okay, I'm going to move in. She said, because I got to back up a bit. I always wanted Carol as my girlfriend. But Carol always shied away. It's sort of like it could have been, but it wasn't, right? So we're just friends right now, but I'm very respectful for her. I don't ever try to kiss her or do anything like that. I'm a friend, right? So she moves into this house next door, right? And she came over to see me one time, and she didn't knock on she just walked in the back door. And I think she caught a glimpse of baby when she was human, when she was alive, right? And then she walked in the living room and saw the porcelain figure sitting there. She says, Roy, something strange is going on. So finally I had to tell her. I said, you see that porcelain figure over there? Yeah. I said, that comes alive. She got mad at me. Cut it out. You're always doing this stupid joke with me trying to play games. I said, Carol, I'm not playing games with you. That statue can come alive. What would you do if it came alive? She said, well, I'd probably just sit here. I said, okay. So I said, okay, baby, you can come alive now. And baby just slowly materialized into a real dragon right in front of her. She stood up and started moving to the door. I said, Carol, you're all right. He's more kinder than anything I've ever met on this planet. And she dropped her shoulders. And eventually she got to know the baby. She was patting him, and she'd feed him, make sure every day she came over now, and she fed him, her or him or whatever it was, and she became very close with baby. She would come over and we'd put a movie on and sit on the couch, and baby would crawl up on her lap and lie on her with her head on her shoulder, on Carol's shoulder, and purr, and she'd be there patting this thing, watching this movie. So after a while, let Carol go home at night to go to sleep, right? Baby would follow her home and crawl into the bed with her, right? The next night, baby crawled in with me. Baby knew not to abandon me as a friend because I did so much for her. But she had a second friend now, and it was Carol, right? So we lived so far in the bush that we had bonfires every night to burn our garbage for the day, and we'd have chairs around the bonfire, and sometimes I cooked something on the bonfire, and we'd have I'd play the guitar and sing, and we'd have a little party around the fire, just Carol and I, and baby. Baby used to like the fire. A number of times I had to pull baby away from that fire. So I said, "You're getting too close." I grab him and pull him back, right? So, uh, uh, yeah, the assessor came to the house, right? He says, "How many people you got living here?" and all this stuff. You know how they are. Uh, Now, Carol was playing with baby in the back room, making a racket, right? I don't know what they're doing. They're playing, right? And he says, "Are you sure you're the only one living?" I said, "Yeah, that's my next door neighbor, Carol. You're going to go to her house. You won't be there. I'll send you to the door so you don't have to go over there." So Carol came to the door. She's out of breath and all panting and everything from playing. And the guy asked her, "Yes, is he the only one living here?" Yeah. Carol kept the secret, right? So, uh, that night, that bonfire, that very night, right? I said to, we're having a fire, and I said, because this animal, this dragon, I gotta tell you, he was smarter than a dog. He was almost, I figure, almost as smart as a human. But he was so smart that I wouldn't put it past him to hold his intelligence back from me to make me think he is stupid. So I thought he was very smart all the time. And I said to baby, I said, "Baby," I said, "you remember that man that came to the door today, our visitor?" And he looks at me, never really says it, he just looks at me. I said, "Yeah, did you like that man?" Well, this is the first time I saw baby do this. Oh man, he scared the you know what out of me. He stood up, took a step back from the fire, and he swelled himself. I say swell, but it's like he just got bigger and bigger and bigger till he was the size of a bus. He was huge. His wings would, like if that's his wing, it would unfold to another wing, and that would unfold again to a third wing. He had these big long wings that went with points on the ends, right? And when he changed into this, he got some horns on his head, and his facial structure changed a bit. He was a full-on dragon. He put his head into the pointed toward the sky, and he let go a big heavy yell. It shook my chest. It shook my body. And very loud, low, loud, and all of a sudden, all this flame started coming out of his mouth. Now there was something coming out of his mouth, but it never ignited until it was about this far away from his face, and then from there out, it would ignite, right? Huge, the whole place just lit up from the light of this, right? He calmed down. He folded his wings in. He swelled down to normal. And I walked over and I hugged him. I said, "What's wrong?" I don't think he liked that guy at all. I think he knew because this being is magical. He's a mythical, magical being, and I think he's got magical powers. So he knew he could tell in his brain what that guy was thinking and that I think, and he didn't like it, right? So I said, "Okay, I gotta watch, baby, with anybody that comes over, right?" So, uh, one day baby was still in a small form. And I got on his back with his head between my legs, like he ride a horse. And I went like this, and then I got off him, right? He manifested into this huge being and bent down. I got on his neck with my legs and wrapped around and held on tight because I was scared like crazy. There was like two little hooks there that I could clip my feet into, and I held on to the two horns coming out of his. There was horns coming out of his head all the way down his neck, but it was stopped right where I was. So I held on to the last two horns and held on, and he could feel me going. I could really drive this guy. He took me out for a flight one day. The first time he took me out was just out around the yard and back, and I got off, and he could see I liked it, right? So the next time, right, he, I get on his back, and I don't know where we're going. I pack a lunch. I got a backpack with food and water in my back. and a camera stuff, you know. We head out. I don't even know what direction we're flying. I didn't bring a compass either. So we're flying. I keep telling them, fly low, just above the trees, so you can stay hidden. You go up, you're going to be found out about. So I think he can read my mind. He stayed low, right? Right above the trees, and he flew for, well, I'm not telling you what kind of, even what part of the country this is in, because we'll have people searching in droves for this place. It was there was a, there was a mountain and a waterfall, and the water, when the water came over the waterfall, when it hit the water, it would go all the way around to the rocks that came down on one side, but the other side left a little, like an opening there. And and he started. I never said nothing to him because I figured he knows what he's doing. And we went in under the waterfall into a cave. This cave led back. I think it was washed out by water. It was in a massive cave, and then there was another massive cave, and then this was a series of huge caves in there. Yeah, I could tell that where he was walking was walked upon before. It was like a path almost. Big wide path made by beings probably like him. Now I'm getting scared because he's taking me. I think he's taking me home. I think he's going to show me his family. Right? Um, the air started smelling bad in there. And he could see I was having a problem breathing. So, on this, he, I don't know how he did this, but it started out as a small ball and got bigger. It encompassed him and me. And as soon as it encompassed me, I could breathe properly and everything. So, okay, he's smarter than I even thought before. And we get down into a really deep part of this cave. It's further in than any man could probably go, I'm certain of it. It opened up. There was fluorescence in there. So it wasn't like sunlight, but you could see it was bright. There was foliage in there from the brightness in the water and that. It was like a jungle. It was a big area, right? But on the side of this one mountain, I could see like little sacks all over, a lot of them on the side of this mountain. I sort of figured that they were the eggs and the babies of whoever made these. So he took me to there was a series of caves below this section where the eggs were, and he landed poof right there. As soon as he landed, more of his species came out. Some of them were small, but the guardian ones came out big. And as soon as the guardian ones came out big, uh, they had a conversation with Baby. I think Baby told him I was okay. I said, no, he saved my life. He's okay. This one human's going to be okay for us. So, the big dragons shrunk down into all 2-foot size, like Baby. Matter of fact, sometimes I had a hard time telling Baby apart from some of these other ones, so I had to call Baby, and Baby would come over, and I knew it was all right. Yep. So, I took my camera, I took a whole pile of pictures. I emptied the capacity of the camera with pictures. I had a lot of, like over 100 pictures there for sure. And I brought some food, right? And but it was for me. But the little baby dragons, I sat down and had my lunch. They came over, so I never did eat my lunch. I ended up giving it a bit to everyone. Now, when I did that, the other dragons, they all watched, right? And Baby stood up and gave a grunt. I've been there for a while. I went for a swim. There was fruit on the trees. I ate some of the fruit. The fruit that I knew, there was apples there and stuff. So I had an apple, and I was okay. But basically, Baby says it's time to go. So any dragon that had anything to do with me, I went up and gave him a hug, and I kissed him. And I went on to the next one. I hugged him and kissed him. I waved goodbye. I got on back of Baby, and we left. We through that tunnel. It was like almost 3 hours to leave out that tunnel, right? We get outside the water, poof, wings unfold, and he flies, right? Takes me home, right? And he's not he's not growing small again. He's staying big. And he flew off. And I waved to him like this. I'm seeing him turn his head and look back at me, right? So I waved to him, right? Well, I hadn't seen baby in a while, throughout the winter. It was springtime again now. And I've talked to Carol. I said, Carol, I haven't seen baby, I don't know. And she's worried too, right? So, we go for walks in the bush, hoping we see him. No. So we're sitting around the campfire one night, her and I. We got some goodies there, and the blankets over our legs, and we're sitting there watching the fire and we're talking, right? And what I would do is I would scan the skies for UFOs and stuff at night. So we're both looking up at the skies, and Carol's saying, "Look at this star." And then all of a sudden she says, "What's that?" Carol says. I said, "Where?" Because I don't know where she's pointing. I turn around to see where she's pointing. She's going. I look up, and I see a red light way off in the distance. And it appears to be coming closer. It got closer and closer until I could see it was a dragon. Now I know there's more than one dragon, okay? But I was praying it was baby, right? So she came in, she landed, and this big, she's even bigger now than she was. When she landed, the whole ground shook. It just boom, boom, right, on 4 legs. And then she unfolded her wings, boom, and then into her body, tight like this. I ran over to her. I was bawling. I had tears coming out of my eyes. And so did Carol. We both ran over. Carol was trying to talk to me, but she was crying so hard I had a hard time understanding what she was saying. But she was saying, "He's back, he's back." But you know what? I'm getting older. I need help to take care of him. So I said to Carol, because Carol's younger than I am. I said, if something happens to me, will you take care of baby? You know, we had to feed him every once in a while. He couldn't get enough food out in the wild, so we had to feed him once in a while. I said, you need to keep feeding baby, because I don't think he's smart enough to know what he can eat and what he can't. She says, don't worry, Roy. She said, I'll take care of baby. I'll make sure that that he is fed and taken care of. And what I'll do, Carol, is I'll leave you my second house, my house, so you can give it to someone in your family and maintain this secret with baby. So I call baby Carol that night and says, "Is baby there with you?" "Yeah." "She's sleeping in the bed right now." Right? So the next morning, oh wow, I get a call from Carol. Carol says, "Come over here quick." She didn't say why or nothing, but I know Carol. She never said that. I zoomed over there, ran. I'm about 50 years old now, and I'm running as best as I can. Right. I run into her. I didn't knock. I ran into the door. Ran into her bedroom, and there's baby. He's bigger than he was, but not the big one. He's a little bigger, right? And he's leaning back against the headboard with his feet out like this in front of him, right? And I look down between his legs, and I see a little baby dragon. I looked at Carol. I said, "We thought he was a boy. He's a she. This is a female," I said. Carol took the baby and wrapped him up in a nice soft blanket, gave him back to baby. And baby lied down because she went through a lot, and it covered over with a blanket. And Carol was feeding baby food and making sure she got enough water when I got there. I'm saying this is something right out of a comic book. I said, we're gonna have 2 babies now, 2 of these dragons around. I said, Carol, we're gonna get caught. I said, well, one was hard enough to, but when you get 2 or maybe even 3 of them flying around here, They're going to get caught, I said. So we lived on the side of this huge forest, about 1,000,000 acres. Nobody knows it's in there. It's endless trees, right? So uh, I, I wasn't well off, but I had a certain amount of money I could play with. So I rented somebody to fly me around because I don't know, and they flew me out over this property, and I was looking for a place like a cave, something that I could get them to go and live there because they're going to get caught if they continue to live here. Right? There was some place there, so I wanted to go and check it out. So I got back on baby's back and we flew out. And we landed in front of this cave. This cave was perfect. It had water running down the one side, inside the cave, running it out. And it was a dry cave. It was big for him, her. Mm. And it was up on a little bit of a cliff. So to get up there, you'd have to be a mountain climber. It was pretty steep. She would fly there and fly out. She would never walk in. Leave footprints in and out. So, I, I said, Carol, I said, we got the saddle. Just get up and get on the saddle and let her take you wherever she wants. Right? Well, Carol's a brave girl. She's not like a normal girl. She's brave, very brave. She just climbed up on the baby's back there. There was a way that he would put his front left paw, and you'd step on that, and then up onto a horn, and then onto the saddle, right? So she's in the saddle. I said, "Hold on tight, Carol." I said, "Hold on." So baby takes off, starts flying. Right? I could hear Carol screaming all the way into the distance. She was still screaming when I couldn't hear her anymore. Well, I knew she was gonna be all right. I knew baby wasn't gonna let anything happen to her. I knew that. Baby absolutely flat out loved Carol. So Carol comes back. It's dark, and I got the fire going. I guess because I had the fire going, baby could easily find us. So boom, boom, lands. Carol gets off. And Carol was so excited. She says, he took me to a cave. He took me into a cave. He took me in the cave, she says. I was scared shitless outside the cave, but he decided he took me in. I made a small fire in there, and I could see that it was a nice round it had some stalactites on top, but I'm pretty sure baby could knock them off and they wouldn't be a problem anymore. And it was flat, soft ground, right? So, Carol comes back. She said, "I think baby's thinking of staying there." So, okay. The next day, Carol and I both got on baby and we flew out there. And we took some tools with us and stuff. We raked the place and got it nice and flat. And I took my rifle and I blew off some of those stalactites that could have come down and hurt her. But we didn't have to worry about heat because what she would do is she just spit over in the corner and that would burn for an hour. Right? So she'd spit in the back part of the cave. And the smoke would leave. I watched it. The smoke was going up. Like he couldn't walk through that into the cave. It was all blocked off with rock. But the air could go through. The air was going up and out. So I went around back to see if I could see where the smoke was coming from. But it was almost like it was a clear smoke. You couldn't see the dark smoke, right? So I said to baby, I said, because he knew what sleepies meant, and I patted where I wanted him to sleepies and stuff like that. So Carol and I eventually, because this was a dry cave, we eventually got a couple of mattresses out there. And don't ask me how we got the mattress out of there. Baby grabbed it with his 4 paws and took it out and flew it out. There was 4 mattresses, 2 tacked on top of it, and he would sleep on top of the 4 mattresses there. He liked that. It was soft. I told him, I said, spit over there, and he'd spit over there, and it would light up the room, and heat would come. And he could govern how much heat was in that room by how much fire. So, okay, I feel a lot better about this, right? She's going to start using that. When the baby got big enough, when the motherly instinct of Carol would let go of that baby, the baby went and lived with her. We have to call the baby something. I can't keep calling the baby baby because I'm calling mother baby. So I'm going to call her child, the baby's child. So mother took the child, and the two of them went and they lived in the cave. And they would fly over the house, make sure there's no foreign cars there or anything. And then they'd land in the backyard, never in the front, always in the back. And most of the time it was after dark when we were having the park fire. So, yeah, baby kept good care of Carol and I. This went on for a couple of years. And then one day, baby landed right by the fireplace, and Carol and I are there. We saw baby, and we're patting her and hugging her and stuff. She turned into the porcelain figure again. The only time she ever did this is when somebody was coming, so I immediately stood up and looked around. Nobody anywhere. Nobody. So I took the porcelain figure in the house and I sat it on the stool where I had it. And that's when I made the decision. I said, Carol, I said, you're younger than me. I said, baby flat out loves you. Why don't you take baby home with that? And I handed her the porcelain figure. So she took baby home. She's even right now today, she's got baby sitting in her apartment, looking at her with those big orange eyes. At night, you can see the orange eyes. When he was thinking and not sort of like he wasn't all the way into a porcelain figure, he was sort of halfway. His eyes would go. Right? You could see that at night. It was really neat. And when I talked to him, you see the eyes move over at night and look right at me. And I wasn't afraid. I knew what it was, right? So that's the end of the story, right to today. Carol has this porcelain figure of a dragon, but it's not a porcelain figure. It's a real dragon with magical powers who would turn himself into a real dragon. We took care of him. We never saw him back again into a dragon form. It was always a porcelain figure. But we kept that porcelain figure. We talked to him, patted him, and just like he was here. It's strange where your love will fall, and ours fell on a dragon. Thanks, everyone. If you could like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, that'd be great. Mega blessings for you and your family. Bye-bye.